If I can ask everyone, please, to make their way to a seat, please. If you would like to grab another drink on your way through, please do so. There's still some champagne and soft drinks up on the table to my right, and we're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. And a very, very warm welcome to everybody. And this evening is a very special evening for Volunteering ACT, but more so for the volunteers in our region as we celebrate 30 years of our volunteering awards in the Canberra region. My name is Jean Geezer. I'm the CEO of VolunteeringACT, and it gives me great pleasure to be your host for this evening. Our first welcome has to, of course, go to our nominees and our nominators, many of whom I can spot because I've seen all of your photos. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here this evening. And you are, of course, our very, very special guests. So hello, nice to meet many of you before we've started this evening, and I look forward to connecting with more of you at the end of the ceremony. Of course, we've got some work to do before then, so everyone strap yourself in. We have some very special guests gathered here this evening. I would like to very warmly welcome the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, His Excellency General the Honourable David Hurley, and Her Excellency Mrs. Linda Hurley. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. Members of the Legislative Assembly, Emma Davidson, of course, Nicole Lauder, Elizabeth Lee, Peter Kane and James Milligan, and Members of Parliament, Alicia Payne, who I haven't said hello to, hello, and David Smith, and Head of the ACT Public Service, Kathy Lee. And I think I found you all in the crowd, so that's remarkable. To the amazing volunteers of VolunteeringACT, it wouldn't be our awards unless I took the time to stop and thank and acknowledge you, of course, because unfortunately these are the awards that you cannot win. It's very important that I stop and thank you for everything that you do to keep our organisation churning. It's a beautiful organisation to work with, and that is made stronger every day by the involvement of our own volunteers. And I can see a couple of you out in the crowd, so thank you for coming. And of course, that of course extends to the Board of Directors, for whom there are a number of you here as well, and members of our board subcommittees who volunteer their time and make our organisation hum. And we're able to do amazing things because of our volunteers. Before we get started, of course, I need to do some housekeeping. So our wonderful photographer, Ben, who is walking around with a camera, so he's reasonably easy to spot, will be taking photos all the way through our ceremony tonight. So if you haven't already let a member of our team know that you would like to not be in any photos, can you please catch one of the VolunteeringACT team as soon as you can, so that we can make sure you're not in any photos. And our event is being live streamed, so fingers crossed it's all working. I'm waiting for a thumbs up. Oh, I've got a thumbs up from Cass, thank you. So a big hello to everyone who is joining us, and we know that there's lots of groups of people around Canberra tonight who are joining us from their workplaces or from their homes and are having a bit of a volunteering awards party, so very big welcome to you. For those of you here in person, feel free to help yourself to more refreshments throughout the ceremony. In case of an emergency, ignore anything that I say and please follow the directions of the venue staff. Restrooms are to my left behind this caravan, but I ask that you keep resting to a minimum because you're going to miss all of the fun. That was a restroom joke. I haven't made one of those in a couple of years. If you're called to the stage, and that's where things get really exciting, everybody, we ask that you enter on this side here, and you will have a photograph with the award sponsor or award presenter. But I need to remind you all, because you're all being very well behaved and that's not the mood we're trying to create, that you need to cheer, you need to applaud, and my personal favourite, jubilant cry of celebration, is a quick yell of 12 points, which for the Eurovision fans in the room know that means 12 points, and that's the highest vote you can get. Which I think is appropriate for this setting, of course, but apparently not appropriate to yell out in your local deli. So that was a lesson that I had to learn this year, and I've come through the other end. To start our proceedings, and before we go any further, I would like you to join me in welcoming Ngunnawal Elder Violet Sheridan, who is going to welcome us to country. Welcome to Violet.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here to perform the welcome for the 2021 VolunteeringACT Awards. As you were told, I'm a Ngunnawal Elder. My people have lived in the area for many years, and there's still at least 8 generations of my people that families that still live in the area. Every time a formal welcome to country is given, it continues a tradition that has been a part of Ngunnawal culture. It was given way of welcome when permission was granted to visit a different tribal area. When we talk about traditional country, we mean something beyond the dictionary definition for the word Aboriginal Australians. We might mean homeland or tribal or clan area. We might mean more than just a place on the map. For us, country is a word for all values, places, stories, cultural obligation associated with the area and the features, and it describes an entity of our ancestors' domains. It is on this land that my ancestors lived, cared and raised their families. I'm a proud Ngunnawal woman as I walk into the future, teaching the next generations about the oldest culture in the world, the Aboriginal culture. I'd like to pay my respects to the Excellency General, the Honourable David Earley and Mrs Earley, Emma Davison, LMA, and Community Services, Disability and Families. And I'd also like to acknowledge Elizabeth Lee, Leader of the Opposition, Alicia Payne, Federal Member for Canberra, other LMAs in the room, ladies and gentlemen. In keeping in the general, I'd like to also pay my respects to my elders past, present and emerging. In keeping the general spirit of friendship and reconciliation, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all here this afternoon on behalf of my people, the Ngunnawal people, who are the traditional owners of the land that we meet on this evening. And I'd also like to acknowledge all the nominees and I believe that they should have a spot for the volunteers in the Australian Day Awards, because volunteers to me are the backbones of Australia. Without our volunteers, we wouldn't survive. So I could congratulate all your nominees and I congratulate all the winners tonight. God bless. One other thing, I'm a big supporter of climate change. We need to look after this land for our next generation, but I'm also a big supporter of the COVID jab. So if you haven't had the COVID jab, if you know someone that hasn't had the COVID jab, tell them, do it for yourself, do it for your family and do it for your community, because this COVID-19 and this new strain is going to come into 2022 with us. We're not going to just have a new year, we've got a new strain that's coming along as well. Thank you all, God bless you all, and if I don't see you before Christmas, have a Merry Christmas and a happy and safe New Year. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Violet. It's always lovely to have you at our events, and thank you for your warmth and your energy and for calling us all to action in the important work that we have to do in our community to close the gap. This is the first year our awards have been in December. No, we haven't made a mistake. It has been deliberate. Usually we hold these awards in May during National Volunteer Week. And this year we took the opportunity to switch our flagship events so that our expo will now be held in May, and we think that that's a great time for our members and organisations to find all of the volunteers that are ready to go in the community. But we also thought that December really is a time for celebration, and after the fairly crap year we've had, excuse my language, that now would be the right time for us to join and to celebrate. The theme for International Volunteer Day, each year celebrated on December 5, is Volunteer Now for Our Common Future. And this year's theme perfectly illustrates how important the time and effort dedicated by volunteers is to our community and how it contributes across every single part of the Canberra region. We touch more on International Volunteer Day later during our ceremony. But first, I need to let you in on a dark secret held until now within the walls of the VolunteeringACT office. Despite the most amazing planning and care taken by the team, notably Cass and Kath, who are here today, and we'll be delighted that I've embarrassed them publicly, we have had a string of bad luck when it has come to pulling together this event. Later, you'll hear hilarious story about the National Carillon. But you may notice this evening, as you turn your attention to Kath, who will be presenting the awards to our presenters and our sponsors, that we are missing our trophies. So this isn't a good way to start when you're running an award that is somewhat reliant on the actual award. So when these things happen, I think it's really important that we take a deep breath and that we seek guidance from the great thinkers of our time. So in an effort, as my colleagues will attest to, an effort to keep up with, the cool young folks, I sought the advice of a contemporary genius, MC Hammer. And from one MC to another MC, and I don't know how much we have in common, but clearly by title quite a lot, the advice hidden in his hit from 1990 called Ice Ice Baby, when the best laid plans fall over, and in fact at multiple points in the planning for this event through no fault of our own, things have fallen over. You've got to get the team together, and I should say I've been discouraged from saying this. So we got the team together and we encouraged them to stop, collaborate and listen, which that's what he says. Don't put this on me. But I think stop, collaborate and listen are the very three tenets of problem solving. Because for everything that goes wrong, there is an opportunity. And so whilst we present you with some amazing floral bunches this evening that Miss Moss Florals in Western Creek very quickly pulled together for us and have done a spectacular job, so they get a big tick, it offers us a chance, of course, to bring our winners together next year, trophies in hand, for a second celebration. Which is a lovely segue into talking a little bit about this year. Of course, we experienced our second lockdown. For those of you that are from Canberra, I think most people gathered here are Canberrans. And even though that experience was different for all of us and challenging for all of us, there was a sense that this year it was more important than ever to find ways to look after our well-being and our good health, and they became really personally important for every one of us. So I wanted to share a personal anecdote with you. Every day during the lockdown, my 2-year-old, full of life, would bring me a book, not one of his, mind you, because that wasn't the way things panned out. He would bring me one of my books and he would ask me to read to him. So when he picked each of these books with a great deal of care and consideration and brought it to me with a lot of conviction, I took this as a sign. I took this as a sign that he was trying to tell me something about what he thought I needed in my life, and through that, hopefully, to be able to enable my own well-being and support the well-being of others. So the first book was Lord of the Flies. So I thought, well, what is he trying to tell me? So I gathered my friends and I rang them and I said, I think we need to have a really serious conversation about, if we're ever collectively gathered on an island, which one of you I recommend has to go first. Which was a beautiful opportunity for us to reconnect and for us to say hello, which we hadn't done in some time, and feel less isolated. So that was a tick, except for one person who was not comfortable with that conversation, but that's his problem. Another day, it was a book called The Power of No, a book, ironically, I have not read. And I took that as a sign that we all need to be able to make more time for things that are meaningful for us and be able to say no to things that bring us no joy. And I made a personal pledge that I needed to do that, and I have not taken out the rubbish since. But one day, he came to me with a bunch of printed papers. And I thought, what are these printed papers? And they were printed reports of a board that I'm on. And that day stuck out to me the most because it was a powerful reminder of the board that I'm on, and I know there's a couple of people here representing that organisation tonight. But that volunteering experience has brought me incredible joy because I'm able to give back to an organisation that I believe in with every fibre of my being. And I sense that that is what we all have in common here tonight. Throughout the pandemic, the role of volunteers has been more than critical to our community, but has also been a powerful motivator for each of us as we've been able to engage in volunteering as a way to stay connected, to learn new things, or on a pathway to something better in our lives. So tonight is about being inspired, it's about recognising the power of the volunteering movement in the region, and after yet another challenging year, us giving ourselves permission to stop and to celebrate. And on that note, on the note of celebration, I would now like to invite our very special guest this evening, the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, His Excellency General, the Honourable David Hurley.
Well, good evening all, and thank you for the very warm and kind invitation for Lyndon and I to be here tonight to share in a very special occasion in the life of the ACT when we recognise the lifeblood of the city and of the region. Could I begin by thanking Auntie Violet for her warm welcome to country. If you come to Government House, you'll be aware that I will nearly in every acknowledgement of country say that if you've been a Canberran for a while, you know what a beautiful part of the country this is here. Go down to Madgie, take a bushwalk and so on. And we thank the Ngunnawal people for looking after it for us for generation after generation and pay respect to their elders past and present. Could I acknowledge all our members of Parliament, both federal and territory? I won't go through the list, but thank you for being here tonight. This is a very important night for the community and important that our elected representatives are here to participate with the community. Miss Cathy Lee, the Director General of ACT Public Service, Robin Hendry, the Chair of VolunteeringACT, the other members of the board, award nominees in particular, delighted to be here, ladies and gentlemen. I was on the phone just before I came here this evening to the Mayor of Gundawindi, Lawrence Springborg, asking him how the community is faring with the floodwaters just rolling through now, moving away from Gundawindi now to Boggabilla and going south. Huge floodplain just rolling through that countryside. And his first comment was, well, we're okay, but isn't it amazing the number of people who put their hands up to come and help in a situation like this? You know, people going around to people's homes, checking on people and so on. And I said, Lawrence, we comment on this all the time, but we shouldn't have to. Why should we be surprised? This is us. This is a reflection of who we are as a people. Now, Linda and I have the privilege of being in this appointment and engaging with the Australian people on a day-to-day basis. I don't need a research paper or any survey to tell me how good the stock is in Australia. I see it, experience it every day of the week. And when we talk about floods, bushfires and so on, yes, we think about RFS, SES, the uniform volunteers, of course, but we know, and we see it here tonight, it's much, much more than that. During the pandemic, ringing the communities in Western Sydney, northwestern Melbourne, southeastern Melbourne, talking to the leadership of the cold communities who put their hands up to say, our community does not understand what's going on. We need to come together to lead them through to the other side of this. No thought or about day jobs or anything like that. We have an important role to play. So there's that unorganised, put your hand up. But then we have all the organisations similar to what's represented here in the room tonight that really enrich our country. At Government House, we talk about a richness of spirit in this country, and it's enormous. It reaches everywhere. Up in the Gulf country, after the January-February 2019 floods, an enormous body of water the size of Victoria went through northern Queensland into the Gulf. We were talking to some property owners and managers after that, looking at the damage, and I said, you've got a lot of hard work ahead of you. And they said, we're not afraid of hard work, just give us a good season. And that's, I think, what's reflected in this room. We're not afraid of hard work. We're not afraid of getting out there, giving our time, helping others to get out of a problem, solve an issue, look after our environment and so on, but give us a good season. And that's what we're all working for. So I salute you all for the work you do for the people of the ACT. And just talking, people working with the Botanic Gardens across the board. It's MRSS in town, the cafe on Northbourne Avenue for early morning people. It's just so rich. So for me, as the Governor-General, I'm not the Governor-General of the ACT, it's a really odd arrangement. I'm sort of de facto person who comes out and does this sort of thing. But what a joy to do it, to see people who say there is something outside that's bigger and more important than me. And in an age of self, in this sort of expressive individualism we have these days, in an age of self, to see people who see outside of that is just a delight. So to all the nominees tonight, congratulations for being here. I have no inside knowledge as to who won, so I'll share the joy with everyone else. But you are the cement, the glue, the resin, the blood that keeps this community going. Thank you all. Congratulations and enjoy the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you for taking the time to be here and for your very kind words. I should have worn my running shoes. Little did I know I'd be getting off. And I mean, I wrote the speech, so I did know when I say who. It sounds a bit strange, doesn't it? Our next very special guest is Emma Davidson, Minister for Community Services, Families, Disability, Mental Health and Seniors. Will you please join me in welcoming the Minister to the stage?
Thank you. I'd also like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land that we're meeting on, the Ngunnawal people. And in particular, I want to acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander volunteers in the ACT, including those here today, on the contribution that they're making to make our city a place that is more inclusive and where we better take care of each other and our environment through their volunteering. I pay my respects to our elders, past and present, and acknowledge their nurturing of future leaders. And thank you again, Arnie Violet, for reminding us all to go out and get vaccinated. I got my vaccinations done at Woononga. They have been doing a fantastic job taking care of people in our community, as well as people who are in the AMC. And I am just so thankful that we have them as part of our community. I'd also like to acknowledge all of our special guests here tonight, His Excellency General the Honourable David Hurley and Her Excellency Mrs Linda Hurley, and I also acknowledge my fellow ACT and federal parliamentarians here today. It's wonderful to see so many of you here in the room and all of us sharing in this wonderful occasion. I'm really honoured to be making this opening address at this very special 30th Anniversary Volunteer Awards for the Canberra region. The Volunteering Awards are the premier recognition event for volunteers in the Canberra region, and in this 30th year, we celebrate all volunteers and acknowledge the ongoing contribution of volunteers to the Canberra community. I'd like to thank VolunteeringACT for facilitating the 2021 Volunteering Awards and for organising tonight's event through what's been a truly challenging time for event planning. Your flexibility and your adaptability have been quite amazing. Now, last year's Volunteering Awards took place virtually because of the impacts of COVID-19. So it's an absolute pleasure that we're all able to be here together in person to celebrate our wonderful volunteers and to hear their stories. Volunteering makes an absolutely vital contribution to the life of our region, including by enhancing our services. Volunteering is often the invisible but the ever-present activity that underpins a wide range of services, including disability and aged care, mental health services, community support services, the arts, education, sports, and many more. Importantly, volunteering also supports our communities to thrive and fosters greater community connection and inclusion. Now, Canberra has a strong history of volunteering. I know this personally. In my previous job, I spent a lot of time looking at data for what Canberrans are actually doing when I was working in the community sector, and we have an amazing rate of volunteering in this community. However, in recent years, all states and territories have seen a decline in the rates of formal volunteering, while informal volunteering activities are on the rise. Now, as we move forwards into 2022, it's important for us to understand the changing face of volunteering and what we need to do to support and to sustain these important activities. I know that volunteering is important to many of you in this room. It's been a really important part of my life as well. My mum used to volunteer me to do things for NGOs from a very early age. I remember building my first database of volunteers for an NGO and putting together their first annual report when I was 14 and thinking, you know what, I think I'm going to start making my own choices about who I volunteer for. So at the age of 16, I started volunteering in first aid services for the Red Cross and continued my volunteering throughout my adult life. I remember when the first lockdown started last year, I was actually volunteering in New York for a group of Aboriginal women who were over there to do some relationship building and advocacy work around ending violence against First Nations women, and that's when it all started with cities being locked down. When I came back to Canberra, I was so thankful to be back here that it really meant an enormous amount to me to be able to keep volunteering in mutual aid groups for food relief, and seeing the enormous number of people who are putting their hand up despite personally very challenging circumstances of their own, because they wanted to be part of a collective action for all of us to get through this together. The last 2 years have been very difficult for organisations and individuals to navigate. The public health emergency has had a really significant impact on volunteering across Australia and across all age groups. Now, there was a study conducted by the ANU Centre for Social Research Methods that found that nationally the proportion of adults doing voluntary work has fallen significantly from 36% in late 2019 to 24.2% in April 2021. In the ACT, the same study found that the proportion of people who volunteered decreased from 30% in late 2019 to 24.8% in April 2021. Now, this decrease has been occurring against a backdrop of increased demand for services, with our local community organisations and continuing volunteers demonstrating an enormous capacity for agility and flexibility in times of ever-changing need. And through these difficult times, we've seen a great deal of collaboration and innovation from our region. The Canberra Relief Network has been an amazing example of what can be achieved when government and community and volunteers stop and collaborate and listen and come together to serve those local needs. And I really must say thank you to Volunteering and Contact ACT for being such a huge part of that. It's really important to recognise the impact of these challenging times on volunteers and the organisations supporting them. It's been difficult, but we now must turn our efforts towards supporting volunteering recovery and the re-engagement of volunteers across all sectors. Our region is well placed to move forward positively and collaboratively to ensure that our volunteers have what they need to keep on making a difference in our communities. And can I just say, things like the Canberra Relief Network, that combination of government, community sector and individual volunteers and also businesses coming together to all contribute to solutions, is quite transformational and something that I'm hoping we can take forwards into many, many other activities. For the past few years, the ACT's Volunteering Statement and Action Plan has outlined a whole of government and community commitment to supporting and recognising volunteers. As the statement comes to an end this year, there's an exciting opportunity to listen to volunteer stories and to consider what we might need to do differently going forward, and this will be critical in supporting the ACT's social and economic recovery from COVID-19. So I'm really looking forward to working with the volunteering sector and communities in the development of the ACT's next Volunteering Statement and Action Plan. And tonight we have 10 very special awards to present. So I want to thank each and every one of the volunteers nominated and congratulate you all on your amazing efforts in our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister, and thank you for your genuine commitment to our work and the work of volunteering in the region. It's always a pleasure having you attending our events. Little did I know that Stop, Collaborate and Listen may well take off, and I think this marks the day that I became some sort of influencer. So that's good news. I wasn't prepared, but these things happen all of a sudden, I hear, so I will prepare myself. I need to take a moment to thank all of our wonderful event sponsors for their ongoing support of the Volunteering Awards and the volunteering sector. Just making sure they're on the screen, I'm not having a stretch. And I would like us to have our first round of applause for this evening for all of our nominees. It won't be the last chance we get to recognise them all, but let's take a moment. I didn't hear any jubilant cries, so I'm expecting that as the night progresses. Thank you, that's much better. Matt Franklin, I expect more from you, so you best get onto that very quickly. Without further ado, everybody, it is time for us to present our first award. Our first award for the evening is the Corporate Volunteering Award, sponsored by the Canberra Weekly, and I would ask Nick Samaras to join me on the stage to present our award. The Canberra Weekly, as we all know, is a local institution that goes out of their way to help local community organisations showcase their fundraisers, events, campaigns and community initiatives in their magazine. Canberra Weekly prides itself on being community-focused and Canberra-centric. The Corporate Volunteering Award is presented to an individual or a team whose volunteering work was delivered as part of a corporate or employee volunteering program and delivered a significant impact. And the winner of the Corporate Volunteering Award for the year is Luca Masiki. Luca is actively involved with a range of different LGBTIQA+ organisations, including the Meridian Service User Reference Group, Diversity ACT subcommittees, an active member of the Rambo Ranters Toastmasters Club, part of the executive committee on the Pride Network in his workplace at the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet. He is proactively involved with many other projects like the Queer Zumba group, who appeared in Mardi Gras, that's exciting, started a Canberra Rainbow Comedy Night and contributed tremendously to ACT events. Congratulations to Luca. Our second award this evening is the Volunteer Leadership Award, sponsored by Gallant Management Consulting. And Sharon Winks is going to join us on stage to present the award. Gallant Management Consulting offers a diversity of professional skills through their team of highly skilled and experienced management consulting professionals. They're committed to being active within the community, contributing personal time and professional services to local organisations, and that has never been as true as it has been for the incredible contribution that Sharon has made personally to our own organisation, and we're so thankful that she is part of our world. The Volunteer Leadership Award is presented to a volunteer or a team of volunteers who have made a significant contribution to advancing volunteer leadership, exposure, research or reach. And in this category, we have a highly commended and a winner. So the suspense continues. The highly commended award goes to Greg Young. Greg demonstrates dedication and commitment in his volunteer role for the Night Patrol Service. He's been heading out on the vans to provide light meals and material aid to the most vulnerable in Canberra and surrounds. Greg contributes to leading a small and committed team on the Night Patrol Service. He continues to build a strong rapport with the regular companions who come out to the vans, and he has dedicated a tremendous amount of time to ensure the vans go out night after night when others are unavailable to ensure the companions continue to receive light meals, material aid, and a nice conversation to get through sleeping rough. Greg is an excellent example of someone who is actively combating poverty and inequality in our community by giving back to make a difference in their own time. The night patrol is available to anyone, but primarily focuses on people supporting people who are at risk of homelessness or experiencing homelessness. And I assume someone is picking up Greg's award on his behalf, which is just lovely. And of course, the complexity with having a live streamed event is that we tried to make sure all of our winners were in the room, but life gets in the way sometimes. I think that's a Jurassic Park quote. That can be part of my new influencing regime. Bring back Jurassic Park. And there is actually a Muttabuttasaurus there in case anyone, don't know how long that's been there for, but a while by the looks of it. The winner of this year's Inclusion Award goes to Amanda Wright. Amanda has been a volunteer district manager for the Gungahlin Girl Guides district since 2017 and has been volunteering for Girl Guides for 27 years. As volunteer district manager, Amanda leads a team of 14 adult volunteers in the Gungahlin area to enable them to deliver the Girl Guides program to their members. Alongside the leadership aspects of her role, she manages the administrative work of the district as well as the financial needs of supporting the growth of Girl Guides in our local community. Amanda couldn't join us in person, but we understand she is watching online this evening, so very big congratulations to Amanda. And this is Helen. This is Helen Beasy, who is accepting, thank you so much for coming up on stage, Helen, to accept the award on Amanda's behalf. Thank you, Sharon. And we're up to the third one. So look, it's getting, I promise to pipe down a little bit towards the end. I'm not making that promise, I retract that. I'm not piping down at all. I'm going to get more excited and you're really going to get frustrated with me. The third award this evening is the Innovation Award, which is sponsored by Chamberlains, and I'd like to invite Timothy Nichols from Chamberlains onto the stage to present the award. Hello, Timothy. Chamberlains are more than a law firm. They're highly specialised problem solvers and are always ready to assist their community. They have real-world understanding, nationally recognised expertise and provide straightforward advice. Our Innovation Award is presented to an individual or a team that has significantly enriched the community by using technology or knowledge in a creative or unique way. And the winner of this year's Innovation Award is the Vinnie's Youth Programs team. The Vinnie's Youth Programs consist of a group of youth and young adult volunteers who facilitate and organise respite and recreation activities for children and young people in the ACT and surrounding regions, including the St Joe's Youth Program, Vinnie's Teens Program and St Nick's Young Carers Program. It's getting busy up here, this is great. They provide a total of 41 weekend activities and 11 overnight camps in the year, and the programs are currently supporting 330 children and young people from more than 150 families in Canberra and the surrounding regions. The programs provide children and young people with respite opportunities that they may not otherwise have access to due to their caring roles, their social isolation, or financial restraints on their family. This also enables children and young people to have a break from their home situation, a chance to have fun, and they're a safe point of contact for growth and connections. Very big congratulations. And here we are, ready on to our fourth award of the evening. The next award is our Inclusion Awards sponsored by Canberra Data Centres, and I'd like to invite Greg Brewer, the CEO of Canberra Data Centres, to join me on stage to present the award. Canberra Data Centres are a new sponsor this year, and we're delighted to have such an innovative, environmentally focused and community-orientated company represent this award. Canberra data centres support community organisations and creates local opportunities to build a better future. The award is presented to an individual or team whose volunteering work has delivered a great social impact to people experiencing disadvantage. And again, we have a highly commended and a winner in this category. The highly commended award goes to Wrapped in Love Ronald McDonald House Charities. The Wrapped in Love team's mission is to deliver hope, love and laughter to children and families on the paediatric wards of Canberra Hospital. The volunteers go door to door to patient rooms, providing wellbeing care packs for families, including mindfulness activities for guardians and children, essential care items families may not have been able to bring with them, healthy snacks, craft, games and activities that encourage play and connection. The Wrapped in Love team brightens each day of families with resources that allow them to take just a break from all those daily stresses of hospital life and enjoy small moments together. Congratulations. And the winner is Desmond Gallagher. Des undertakes a broad range of tasks as a peer support volunteer for the Vinnie's Community Inclusion Program at Oaks Estate. He is responsible for running the Oaks Estate Community Room, which is the central hub for 100 social housing residents. His role includes the responsibility of locking and unlocking the rooms, restocking supplies of coffee, tea, sugar and cereal, and ensuring all residents have access to free breakfast, and cleaning the kitchen, bathroom, computer room and dining areas. Almost nothing that Desmond doesn't do. Although the community room's opening hours are 8 till 4, Monday to Friday, Des is happy to provide residents with after-hours access and on weekends. And all he asks is that residents call or knock on his door. Des's work is far more than simply ensuring access to essential items and technology. It's also about making the residents of Oaks Estate feel welcome and supported by a peer who has experienced something similar to them. Well done. Thank you, Desmond. Thank you. Thanks, Greg. And now for a short break in our proceedings, just to tell you some more of my antics. Not really my antics, actually. This one has nothing to do with me. I haven't created any of this. As mentioned earlier, Sunday, 5th of December marks International Volunteer Day. This year, we wanted to shine a light on all of the amazing volunteers in Canberra. And how better for us to do that than to literally shine a light? Our brilliant plan was to light up one of Canberra's iconic landmarks, the National Carillon, on Sunday evening. But as our luck would have it, as we gathered to watch the Carillon light up in a brilliant blue at 9 o'clock, blue being both our own colours and this year's International Volunteer Day colour, the Carillon experienced a power outage. But not to fear, because I heard from the Carillon manager that the electrician who was called out to fix the issue was having trouble finding the Carillon on the map, but that the name rang a bell. I was really pleased with that one, thank you. So the good news, thank you. If I get one laugh, that's all I need, we all know that. So all is well, and instead the Carillon is to be lit up this evening, which is actually really lovely. So as we all travel home, if you're wandering in that direction, or you should be able to see it, of course, from the bridge, the Carillon will be a beautiful bright blue as recognition for Canberra's amazing volunteers. These awards are our favourite event of the year, every year. I'm sure you can tell by the enthusiasm that the entire team brings to pulling them together. And this year feels, of course, more special than usual because we are marking 30 years. To celebrate and commemorate the 30th anniversary, we reached out to local artist Bowie and commissioned a mural in the Canberra Centre to say thank you to volunteers in Canberra. That mural was unveiled this afternoon, and I hope that for all of you who see the piece in person, that you're able to take a moment to reflect on your own role as a volunteer and how through your role you've made Canberra a better place for us all to live in. It's been a fantastic 30 years, and we look forward to 30 more years, to sitting here in 30 years' time. I'll be looking a lot older. The Muttabuttasaurus will be looking much the same. But if you do happen to walk past or go into the city to see it, please don't forget to take a photo and to tag us on social media, because we always love hearing all of your volunteering stories. And I should tell you where it is, of course. So it is in the Canberra Centre in Petrie Plaza, which is in Garema Place, near the VolunteeringACT main office and the carousel. And it is beautiful and glittering, so should be really easy to find. And now on to the rest of our awards. Our next award is for Senior Volunteer of the Year, presented by Mark Pearce, CEO of Volunteering Australia. The Senior Volunteer of the Year is presented to an individual or team over the age of 55 whose volunteering contribution has made a significant impact. And again, we have a highly commended and winner in this category. This year's highly commended award goes to Karen Wilson. Karen is a dedicated volunteer at Perinatal Wellbeing Centre. She volunteers through the childcare and gardening programs and helps to look after the children of perinatal's clients while they attend much needed therapy. She's exceptionally gifted at working with high need children, as well as helping to maintain the large garden area whenever they need a helping hand. Karen's the one that they call. Congratulations, Karen. And this year's Senior Volunteer of the Year is Jeffrey Fairweather. Jeff embodies what it means to have volunteering spirit. A long-serving volunteer across multiple organisations, his commitment to supporting his local community is truly admirable. Having volunteered at Ronald McDonald House, Canberra since 2016 as a night owl volunteer, providing essential overnight support to families staying at Ronald McDonald House, Canberra. Jeff has always shown such care and dedication in supporting families with seriously ill children experiencing hospitalisation. Jeff's essential role as a night owl helped Ronald McDonald to continue to intake and support families throughout the COVID pandemic. Beyond his work with Ronald McDonald, Jeff shows his immense dedication to supporting his local community through further volunteering in 2021 with Oz Harvest Canberra, Lifeline, the Canberra Relief Network and a community fire unit through the Emergency Services Agency, ACT. And it looks like we have someone accepting in his steam. Congratulations. I thought you weren't, Jeff. Very big congratulations. Please pass on from all of us. Thank you. And on to our Young Volunteer of the Year. The Young Volunteer of the Year is presented by Aaron Harwood from MF and Associates. Welcome to Aaron. The Young Volunteer of the Year is presented to an individual or team aged between 14 and 30 years old whose volunteering contribution has made a significant impact. And again, we have a highly commended and winner. Our highly commended recipient is Rhiannon Sandiford. Rhiannon volunteers with Australian Kookaburra Kids Foundation, an organisation dedicated to supporting young people living in families affected by mental illness. Rhiannon's role encompasses assisting with program logistics, supervising young people, co-facilitating mental health education sessions, and engaging with young people and supporting them to get involved in the activities. Rhiannon brings passion and energy to her role, supporting young people, forms genuine connections and always goes the extra mile to ensure young people, staff and fellow volunteers feel welcome and supported. Congratulations, Rhiannon. And this year's Young Volunteer of the Year is Ben Walker. Ben has been recognised as an outstanding young man who is doing everything he can to support the Canberra community. He's a volunteer with the St Vincent de Paul Door Knock Appeal and their night patrol. For the last 2 years, he's also led a team of 30 plus people in the May 50K challenge to raise funds for the Kiss Goodbye to MS charity, and assisted with the running of the 2021 MS Walk, Run and Roll event around the beautiful Lake Burley Griffin. In addition to this, he has set up and organises an annual fundraising event called Christmas Lights for MS that I'm sure many of you are aware of. The event sees tens of thousands of Canberrans visiting his house and admiring the wonderful Christmas lights on display. The event has raised over $15,000 in the past few years and raised an immeasurable amount of awareness about MS to the Canberra community. And these are only some of the volunteering efforts that Ben contributes to our community every year. Congratulations, Ben. And now it's time for the award for Volunteer Team of the Year, sponsored by the Canberra Labour Club Group. And I'd like to invite Tony Lichetti from the Canberra Labour Club Group to join me on stage. The Canberra Labour Club Group, as many of you would know, are a cherished supporter of VolunteeringACT and a proud Canberra institution who go out of their way to support the local community in a myriad of ways, including making community contributions to over 85 local groups, schools and not-for-profit organisations. The Volunteer Team of the Year, a hotly contested award, let me tell you, is awarded to a team whose volunteering contribution has made a significant impact. And again, we have a highly commended and winner. The highly commended recipient of our award this year is the Caritas Christi Conference of St Vincent de Paul Society, Canberra, Goulburn. The Caritas Christi Conference of the St Vincent de Paul Society has been providing emergency assistance and longer-term support to migrants, refugees and people seeking asylum in the ACT for over 25 years. The volunteers of Caritas Christi go out in pairs and visit people in their homes and assess their need to offer emergency material and financial relief, as well as encouragement. During the COVID-19 lockdown, this was done via contactless methods, including over the phone. Assistance can include the provision of food vouchers and hampers, access to clothing, basic furniture and household items through the network of Vinnie shops, assistance with paying utility and medical bills, and accommodation and rent. The conference also provides financial assistance for asylum seekers who have little or no income to cover basic living expenses through the Vinnie's Asylum Seekers Allowance Payment and funding from the ACT government. Well done, congratulations. Congratulations. Hello, congratulations. And the 2021 Volunteer Team of the Year is Disaster Relief Australia, ACT Disaster Relief. Disaster Relief Australia is a veteran-led volunteer organisation that unites the skills and experience of military veterans with emergency service specialists to rapidly deploy disaster relief teams in both Australia and around the world in the wake of natural disasters. Over the last 12 months, the ACT Disaster Relief Team has, amongst other things, helped over 300 families with bushfire recovery work in the Snowy Valley and Eurobodalla Bega Valley Shires. They've delivered over 4,200 food hampers to over 2,000 Canberra households for the Canberra Relief Network. They have provided gardening and home maintenance assistance to numerous elderly veterans and assisted ACT Girl Guides to undertake maintenance at their camp. We're very proud to give you this award, and very, very big congratulations to Disaster Relief Australia. And you know how I said earlier that I thought our bad run of luck had run out? I should tell you that there is a screen here that's supposed to tell me what's happening back there, and it's not working. So if I'm out of order, I sincerely apologise. The next award is the Canberra's Choice Award, presented to a person or team who has been nominated by the public as their favourite nominee. And I invite Robin Hendry, Chair of Volunteering ACT, to the stage to present the award. And of course, this award is voted by you. So this is where things get really exciting. And I should say, the judging panel met before the voting had closed. So we had no idea who had won Canberra's Choice, which just made our job far more interesting. This year's Canberra's Choice Award goes to Leslie Harland and John Fitzgerald. If Canberra is the bush capital, then Leslie and John are the master bush capital volunteers. They care passionately for the natural environment, and their extensive volunteer activities are concentrated in that area. They work with ACT Park Care in the Pinnacle Nature Reserve, spending many hours weeding, monitoring native plants, collecting litter, caring for the area that's close to their home. They also help in the Umbagong Land Care Group and Friends of Black Mountain. They regularly monitor water quality for Water Watch, and their extensive knowledge and efforts help Friends of Grasslands, Greening Australia, the Eastern Long-Necked Turtle Project, Climate Watch, the Australian National Botanical Gardens, and there are more. They help preserve and maintain the environment in the bush capital so it can be flourished and enjoyed by many, and are very worthy recipients of our Canberra's Choice Award. And now for a surprise from our judging panel. We thought last year the Judges Award was a one-time award, and we didn't expect it to return again. But we were blown away by all of the nominations we received this year, and so we decided to bring it back. I'd like to invite one of our judging panel and former Volunteering ACT Chair, Matt Franklin, on stage to present our award. I almost couldn't find him. I don't know how in that jacket, but here he is. He did. Matt Franklin always looks sharp, but I think you've absolutely outdone yourself this evening. And he threatened me he would, so he's a man of his word. The recipient of the Judges Award stood out to the judging panel as a team that encapsulated what these awards are all about. They embody innovation, teamwork, passion, and dedication. The winner of the Judges Award for this year is the contact tracing team through St John Ambulance ACT. Within 3 days of the ACT COVID outbreak lockdown in August of this year, ACT Health was inundated with over 10,000 close contact tracing declarations. On-call emergency support services, including St John's Ambulance, were quick to mobilise teams of volunteers to assist with managing the enormous volume of calls that were required. The volunteer contact tracers were able to assist with clarifying who was a close, a casual or secondary contact, stating the separate requirements for those categories and providing much needed clarity and direction to comply with ACT Health requirements. Throughout a 12-week period, the volunteer contact tracers assisted with inbound calls, vaccination appointments, coordinated inquiries for in-house testing, food supplies for quarantining close contact, and most importantly, perhaps, provided reassurance through welfare checks to at-risk Canberrans. Congratulations. And would you believe it, we're already at our final award for the evening. The sun is setting, the carillon will be blue any minute. I really hope this time the carillon will be blue, otherwise I'm going home. Well, I am going home at some point. It is time for the final award of the evening, the 2021 Volunteer of the Year. And I would ask Minister Davidson, who is ahead of me, to rejoin me on the stage to present our award. The Volunteer of the Year is made up of all of the nominees from all of the other categories and is presented to an individual whose volunteering contribution has made a significant impact to the Canberra region, but in another turn of events this year awarded to a duo. The 2021 Volunteer of the Year is Leslie Harland and John Fitzgerald. I've already told you a little bit about Leslie and John, but to expand on their incredible volunteering contribution, Leslie and John have been volunteering for 10 years every month, rain, hail or shine, setting out carrying their equipment to sample the water quality at 2 sites on Ginninderra Creek and Ubabong. They measure numerous factors that go into the health of our waterways. The data collected is sent to Waterwatch and provides a basis for decisions about water catchment management. Leslie also collected Waterwatch data at Tidbinbilla, where she volunteered for well over 12 years. At each visit, they collect rubbish and litter to make the space happier for us all. Not only is the health of the waterways in the ACT improved through the efforts of Leslie and John, but also that of the downstream rivers. The seed bank at the ANBG relies on volunteers like John to collect, sort, document and store seed to ensure that our native vegetation has a guaranteed future in Canberra. Leslie manages the membership of the nearly 3,000 members of the Friends of the Australian National Botanic Gardens, which raises funds and promotes the gardens. The Canberra Nature Map is an extensive database of living things in the ACT, and all entries are authenticated by volunteer moderators like John. The University of the Third Age has thousands of participants in the ACT, but it is only able to operate due to volunteers like Leslie who work in their Cook office. In brief, thousands of Canberrans benefit from Leslie and John's volunteer activities every year, and we all benefit through the work that they do saving our environment. Congratulations to Leslie and John. Congratulations. You're very welcome. And that is it. All of our awards have been handed out. Before we close, I would like to invite the Chair of the Board of Volunteering ACT, Robin Hendry, to say a few words.
Well, what a night. What stories. And how privileged do we feel to be in this gorgeous, much-loved venue, in each other's company, and also with those who are beaming in. We've got used to that, but it is really nice to have a combination of digital and actually real people, but they're really important real stories, whether you're beaming in or you're here in person. Tonight's ceremony, as we've heard, is very special. 30 years in volunteering awards in the ACT. Who would have thought? Well, I guess all of us here would have thought, because we know the sort of place that Canberra is. And it won't surprise any of us that there'll be another 30 years and we're still celebrating the community in which we live. Still going strong after obviously all that time, but particularly after the challenges that we've all faced this year. That makes this particular award ceremony, I think, very special. The positive impact of volunteers over the last 12 months has simply been incredible. We heard from the Minister that there is a decline in some volunteering, and in the year that we've had, that's really understandable. Having said that, those who could volunteer, those who did volunteer, did amazing work in a time that I don't think has ever been more important. And I thank you on behalf of all of the board of VolunteeringACT for all your efforts in that regard. And the mural, please call into the city. The city has been, transformed of late. I congratulate the ACT government on all that gorgeous greenery that's now in Petrie Plaza there, and it feels more welcoming. So please go and have a look at the mural and enjoy some of the new seating and sculpture work and greenery that we now see in that place. The awards started way back in 1991, and over the time that the awards have been held, we've seen volunteers work through all the milestones of our community, whether they be natural disasters, political changes, particularly in this city, we feel that, and growth. The city has grown strongly over time, and in fact, I think many predicted that we might contract without international immigration this year, but that hasn't been the case. It's particularly important to recognise the drastic impact that this year has had on volunteering organisations, community groups, and their ability to support volunteering activities. Despite these difficulties, we saw our community spirit come through. We're at the forefront of volunteering in this city. We read about it, we hear about it, but we know it. Despite the fact that formal volunteering has decreased, we know that there's an increase in informal volunteering, and that's one of our challenges, to all work together to manage that change and to ensure that people who have skills and an interest in contributing have the opportunity to do so. It's pleasing to hear that many of our members and community stakeholders are now looking to the new year. Of course, this time of year we all think about what's going to happen next year, and they're bringing back some of the volunteering programs. So that's really nice to read and hear. I know with Auntie Violet, thank you very much for encouraging people to get the jab, and you also mentioned the new variant. I work in a health company, and we know that the new variant is going to present new challenges, continue some old ones, but I think we've all learned to work around those things, and we'll get on with it, I'm sure. I'd like to thank all of our speakers tonight, our presenters, sponsors and VIPs. Your Excellencies, the Honourable David Hurley and Linda Hurley, thank you very much for attending tonight. We know that volunteering is important to you. I know you speak to volunteers all the time, and you're very aware, as Your Excellency spoke about in your address, you're very aware of the contribution people make, and we value your contribution here tonight. Thank you. Minister Emma Davidson, thank you very much for supporting our organisation. We have a really strong relationship with, obviously, you as Minister, but also the departments that serve your policies and your needs, and we really appreciate that relationship. And Auntie Violet, thank you very much. We know you support our events. Thank you for coming again and again, but your message always remains important and adds a richness to all the work that we do. Thank you. Thank you to our sponsors. We've seen the logos tonight. I hope you've been looking at those, and we've seen many of those sponsors present. The Canberra Labour Club, a very long-standing sponsor. Gallant Management Consulting, Chamberlain's, Canberra Data Centres and Canberra Weekly. Without your support, tonight simply wouldn't be possible. I thank other presenters, Mark Pearce, Aaron Harwood and Matt Franklin. Thank you for making those presentations. And I'm going to just indulge in a moment, if I may. Matt, I also take this moment to reflect on the work that you've done for the last 8 years as chair of VolunteeringACT, which concluded just in November. I know that through your leadership, this organisation is in very good shape. And as the new chair coming in after 8 years, that's really comforting. What I also know, though, that you've left very big shoes to fill, and I can only hope that I can fill them, at least to some degree that's acceptable. Thank you very much for your work in leading all the directors that have served on the board over the time of your chair for the 8 years. Please join me in thanking Matt Franklin. Very importantly, congratulations to all the winners. I'm going to read their names. I think it's important on a night like this that we actually do individually recognise people. Luca Mizuki, congratulations. Amanda Wright, Vinnie's Youth Program, Desmond Gallagher, Jeffrey Fairweather, Ben Walker, ACT Disaster Relief Team, St John's Ambulance Contact Tracing Team, Leslie Harland and John Fitzgerald. Congratulations once again to all of you. Thank you to all the volunteers, volunteer managers and coordinators and volunteering involving organisation. It has been a pleasure to hear your amazing stories and your efforts on how your contributions to this community have touched so many lives and people across our region. The role that you play is often invisible, but we know Canberra would not be the same without your support and assistance you provide to the volunteers. And of course, one last thank you. I'd like to thank Jean Gies, not only for her humour and outclassing anyone as an MC, but also for leading such a dedicated team of volunteers for their work throughout the year, keeping us open for business, perhaps against the odds, as well as the extraordinary achievement in managing the awards process from start to finish, culminating in the ceremony tonight. Thank you. Lastly, I'll just give one quick ad. Please go and look at the lit up carillon. After the trials and tribulations, it would be so disappointing to the team if you didn't take a snap and post it on social media. So I know there might be a traffic jam if we all go at the same time, but just take your time as you're leaving and head to the carillon. And lastly, I close by wishing everyone here and those online a safe and relaxing holiday period with your family and loved ones. And I look forward to reconnecting with you in, I'm sure, what will be, in fact, a more promising year for 2022. Thank you again.
And we all know I like having the last word. Tonight, nominations are open for the 2021 Volunteer Manager of the Year Award. And if you would like to nominate someone who manages volunteers, and many of you are in this room, so I'm looking at you, please visit our website. That's our next major event, which we have delayed deliberately till next year so that we can bring everybody back together. And we look forward to connecting with our winners, of course, trophies in hand. And we've had word that our trophies are currently in a box at Brisbane Airport, so no doubt waiting for the border to open on Monday, and they're going to be on the first plane out. To our nominees and our nominators, tonight is your night. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. I'd like for us to have just one more round of applause for all of our nominees, our winners and our highly commended. I need to echo Robin's thanks to our very special guests, to our sponsors, our partners, our friends, our volunteers, our board of directors. Everybody who has gathered here today is part of the Volunteering ACT family, and it wouldn't be this event without you all being in the room with some of you are grimacing a bit when I'm talking, but most of you are smiling, and that's all I need. But it is such a pleasure. This is our favourite event. This is an honour. It is an absolute honour to MC this event every year, and we look forward to seeing everyone back next year, hopefully with more people, because by next year we need to put that out to the universe. We'll be